Welcome back. You're still watching This Morning on Channels Television, and we're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. As I said before we went on that quick break, we'll continue our sectoral review of 2013, and today our focus is going to be on women participation in nation building. I'm being joined on the program by a PR consultant and gender advocate Adenike Shobajo and Fayo Williams, who is the first Vice President, NECAS Networks of Entrepreneurial Women. Good morning, ma'ams, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, let's just start with a general overview of women's participation, especially as regards Nigeria's economic development for this year.
Well, good morning once again. Let me have a preamble by wishing everybody compliments of the season, and to say that I'm very, very proud to be a Nigerian woman. I'm proud to be a Nigerian in Africa and a gender advocate. Saying that, I would like to mention that the Millennium Development Goal that government has started to look at, to consider the aspects of nation building, is an important one, and the impact on women is what we want to look at. We find out that there are three aspects of that area that impacts on women. The first one has to do with poverty reduction. You find that poverty has a female face, as we say. It's clear that everything that is poor, you will find that women are more along the line, and for that reason government has to look at that. And then issue of education, we have to make sure that the point of the girl child is considered when you talk about nation building. How do we bring up our girls to that level where they become women, and then the impact on the relevance of government. And then you now consider violence. The issue of violence is something that is so touching. When you talk about violence, it affects the economy, it affects the nation generally, and it impacts more on the women. If you look at deaths, you find that women are put in such a manner that it's nothing to write home about. So these are areas that we look at when you consider the aspects of governance, the aspect of development of the nation and everything. So, but I want to say that in this year, the women have done so much. At the grassroots, you find that even at the villages, at the level of the woman that is doing MESA in the village, up to the level of that managing director in the corporate organization and everything, you find that we're all impacting on the economy. We're trying to see how things are done in such a manner that we improve what is going on and we add value to what government is doing. I am particularly concerned about the budget that we have for women. The budget from the Ministry of Women Affairs. We have to help ourselves to ensure that we put in so much into that budget so that at least we'll be able to achieve much for the women, and then we're able to carry on to ensure that democracy is working, the private sector is working, the public sector is working, everybody is happy, and things are going on very fast.
Well, let me just quickly come in here. We know that various policies were actually brought up during this year, and Fayo, you are the first Vice President of NECAS Works of Entrepreneurial Women, and we know that this year alone, some funds were actually disbursed. About 60% of MSME funds were actually disbursed for women, in particular women's programs and initiatives as well. And how much of these funds were actually used?
Honestly, it would be difficult to say, because in spite of the Freedom of Information Act, I don't really think all that information is out there in the public domain. But I'm a member of Council of Lagos Chamber of Commerce, and my dear colleague and big sister, Mrs. Shobajo, is also a member of council, and we had a women's program on access to finance. And when I asked this question from an audience of about 100, I found out that only 2 or 3 women had accessed those, special gender funds.
Why?
Well, there is some gain in the area of UN. The last UN program was specifically for women, and a lot more success stories, came out of that particular initiative. But I find out that women are yearning for information. Publishing things in newspapers only, even on radio, it doesn't really always trickle down. We need to be very creative here. Mrs. Shobajo knows that we have women in almost 20 local governments in this Lagos state who've been calling, trying to find out, when are you coming to talk to us? They want this kind of one-on-one kind of interaction. So I would like to call on the government that we need to look at the message. We need to look at